Hey guys, it's Lazbro, and I'm back for another video. And it's time to read another chapter of Annabelle. So if you all remember from the last two chapters that I read, Pinocchio took Annabelle out into the village to show her around, and she got into a little bit of trouble here. She wandered off and got lost, but then she met this girl and made friends with her. Her name was Alex. She told her a little bit about herself and about school, and now Annabelle is excited to be going to school and meeting other kids and learning new things. So, I guess so that's basically what's going to happen in this story, but as you know, this is Pinocchio and things are bound to go wrong. So, and two familiar characters return in this chapter, and I think you probably know who they are. So anyway, let's jump right into the story here. Here we go. Chapter 5. Two Old Acquaintances. Boy, acquaintances. Like I said, you probably know who that's going to be. Anyway, Pinocchio and Jiminy spent the weekend preparing Annabelle for her first day of school and teaching her more about life. She had been alive for 4 days now and was adapting quite well to the world around her. Jiminy was proud of her progress throughout the weekend, feeling he had learned a lot himself about Annabelle's personality. She even helped Pinocchio in the workshop when he was busy building new things to sell. Whenever people came to the shop to buy a toy or for their child or have Pinocchio repair a clock or a music box, Annabelle would greet them politely and play with the children sometime. Pinocchio was very proud of his wooden daughter, and what a fast learner she was. Around 8 o'clock, he decided to put her to bed early so she'd be ready for her school in the morning. He had fixed up his old bedroom and made it more suitable for her. The walls and ceiling were painted pink and white, and the bed had a blue blanket with star patterns on it. Annabelle put on her nightgown and climbed into bed with little Figgy beside her. "Now, Annabelle, I want you in bed by this time every night because you'll be going to school early in the morning, okay?" Pinocchio said as he tucked her in. "Okay, Daddy," Annabelle replied. "Will I have fun at school tomorrow?" "You sure will, sweetheart." "Now you lay down and go to sleep, little lady." Pinocchio was about to walk out of the room when Annabelle sat up again. "Hey, Daddy." "Yes, honey?" "I think you're the best dad in the world." Sorry, I made that. Hold on. "I think you're the best daddy in the world, and I love you." Pinocchio felt a warm and tender feeling in his heart when she said this. It was unconditional love, a feeling he hadn't felt since Geppetto passed away. He sat on the edge of the bed and hugged her close. "I love you too, my little wooden princess." He kissed her goodnight and she laid back down. As soon as she fell asleep, Pinocchio went downstairs to the living room and sat next to Jiminy. Figaro hopped onto the sofa and curled up in his lap. Pinocchio gently rubbed his hand across the old cat's fur, and Figaro began to purr. "I wish my father could see me now, Jiminy," Pinocchio said, thinking of his father. "I'm sure he'd be very proud of you, Pinocchio, because I sure am. After all the crazy adventures we had together, you've become a very responsible young man, and I'm sure Annabelle will be a responsible young woman someday." "I hope so too, Jiminy," Pinocchio said hopefully. The next morning, Pinocchio got Annabelle up bright and early and made breakfast, then started getting her ready for her first day of school. Annabelle heard laughter outside and looked out the window to see the village children hurrying along to school. "Where are all those children going, Daddy?" Annabelle asked, pointing out the window. "Those are your schoolmates, Annabelle. They're going to school too. Now let's get you ready so you can join them." Pinocchio made Annabelle a little backpack and packed her a peanut butter sandwich and banana for lunch. Yeah, I'm still going with the thing that she is able to eat. He then handed her a purple ABC book and a shiny red apple to give to the teacher. When she was ready, he opened the door and walked outside. "Now, Annabelle, you behave yourself and listen to what your teacher says, understand?" "Yes, Daddy, I will." Annabelle nodded. She was about to run off when Pinocchio stopped her. "Wait, Annabelle, one more thing. Whatever you do, don't talk to any strangers on the way," he warned her, remembering what happened the first time he went to school and was misled by two swindlers. You all remember that, how that turned out. Let's hope that doesn't happen again. though from the way I wrote this, it looks like it might. Okay, Daddy, I won't. Annabelle gave Pinocchio a hug and kiss and started skipping merrily away. Figgy came out and attempted to follow her, but Figaro came running after and stopped her by laying his paw on her tail. "Where do you think you're going, Missy?" Figaro said to the anxious little kitten. "I want to go to school with Annabelle," Figgy replied, struggling to get free and follow the puppet girl, but Figaro shook his head. "You can't go. School is not for animals like us. You're staying home." Figaro then picked her up by the neck and carried her back inside the house. Figaro, remember when Figaro tried to follow Pinocchio in the movie? That was adorable. So Figgy tries to do the same thing. It's so cute. "Bye, Daddy." Annabelle turned around and waved as she danced away. "Goodbye, Princess. Have a good day." Pinocchio waved back and watched as she disappeared around the corner. Just then he felt like something was missing. "Wait a second. Where's Jiminy?" As fast as these words escaped his mouth, Jiminy came out and hopped onto his shoulder. "I overslept, Pinocchio. Did Annabelle leave yet?" he asked. "You just missed her, Jiminy." Jiminy had an unsettling feeling that Annabelle wouldn't make it to school. "I'd better follow her and make sure she doesn't stray off like you did." "Yes, good idea. I wouldn't want her to get into a similar situation like mine from years ago. But if something happens and she doesn't listen to you, then you come back and get me. Don't go after her yourself." Yeah, because remember how that turned out? You know, this could have been avoided if Jiminy had gone and told Geppetto about Pinocchio going to Stromboli's in the first place. Then Geppetto wouldn't have gone looking for him. But, you know, Jiminy's like, "No, I'll go after him myself." So he's not going to make that mistake again. "Will do, Pinocchio. See you later," Jiminy replied and hopped away to catch up with Annabelle. Maybe I'm just being paranoid over this," Pinocchio said to himself as he disappeared. "She might be okay, I hope." You know, history has a habit of repeating itself, and that's exactly what's going to happen here. Little did Pinocchio know that farther away in town, two shady-looking characters were making their way through the streets. One was a tall, slender fox with a cream face and muzzle. He was wearing an old beige top hat with a light gray band, a beige vest, teal stirrup pants, cream gloves, and a blue and red cape and a gold brooch, carrying a black walking cane. The other was a short brown cat with a tan face, and you know who these guys are. I'm just going to skip it. It was Honest John and his dim-witted partner Gideon. They're back. The cons were walking through the town carrying stacks of papers and hanging them on the walls. The posters were advertising the return of the old gypsy puppet master Stromboli, whom they sold Pinocchio to when he was a puppet. Yeah, Stromboli and the cons are back. Now, Stromboli is a little bit older in this story because it's been like 15 years, but I'm not exactly sure how old Honest John and Gideon are because I don't know how animal people age in this story. I'd say they're probably still, we don't know how old they are, so I'm just go with it. I had to bring these characters back because they were part of the movie and part of the story of Pinocchio, so had to have them back. Now, I tried my best to replicate their comedic antics, so if I mess up here, just don't call me out on it. Anyway, I can't believe we have to work for that old geezer, Honest grumbled, putting up one of the posters. All because Pinocchio escaped him all those years ago, and now we have to pay him back? Whose idea was it to sell that wooden brat to the old gypsy? He looked at his partner, who was carrying the stacks of posters, and Gideon pointed his finger at him. "Of course it was mine! Do you think I'm stupid?" he yelled furiously at him, and the cat shook his head in reply. Yeah, because Gideon's still a mute, he can't talk. And that's the thing, it was really hard to write Gideon, because I'm really not good at writing pantomime characters. We've got to find some way to pay off our debt to Stromboli. He might make us work for him forever. As Honest pondered on how to get himself and his friend out of this predicament, Annabelle come dancing down the road and past them. Uh-oh, here we go. "A little wooden girl, how lovely," he said casually, continuing along trying to think. He then suddenly realized what had just passed by and showed it at a sharp turn. "A wooden girl!" He grabbed Gideon's arm, making him drop the posters, and ran after Annabelle. They ducked behind a corner and poked their heads out. "Look, Giddy! It's a living marionette, just like Pinocchio." They watched her skipping merrily away, and soon Honest got an idea. "That's it! That's just what we need to get ourselves out of this mess." Gideon scratched his head in confusion. "You brainless fool! If we bring that puppet girl to Stromboli, our debt will be cleared and we'll be free again." Gideon smiled with delight, thinking of what he could do with his life after they'd been set free. "Come on, let's get ahead of her." Honest and Gideon followed after Annabelle. The greedy fox and cat managed to get ahead of her without her noticing them. They hid behind a corner and peeked out as they saw her approaching. "Okay, Giddy, here's the But before he could explain, he noticed his partner was holding up his wooden hammer to strike Annabelle as she came around. Just like in the movie. "No, no, no, you idiot!" he growled and quickly snatched the hammer from him. "We'll do this the same way we fooled Pinocchio. If she's anything like him, then she should be pretty gullible. Got it?" Gideon nodded his head and went along with his partner's plan. Honest put his plan into action. He pretended to be speaking to Gideon casually, and right as Annabelle came around, he stuck out his walking cane, causing her to trip over it and fall to the ground. "Ah!" Annabelle shouted as she fell into the ground, her wooden body clattering on the ground. Sorry, I said floor instead of ground. She dropped her book and the apple rolled away. "Oh my goodness, how clumsy of me! I'm so sorry, little girl. Are you all right?" Honest picked her up and placed her back on her feet. Gideon, meanwhile, grabbed her book and apple. "I'm okay, mister," she replied, brushing the dirt off of her skirt. Gideon handed her the book and apple. "I'm terribly sorry, little girl. I was just talking to my friend here, and I didn't see you coming. I hope you can forgive me," he apologized. "That's okay, mister. I have to go now. Bye." Annabelle started walking away, but Honest grabbed her shoulder. "Hold on there, little wooden lady. May we have a word with you first?" Annabelle turned around and looked at him. "I'm sorry, mister, but my daddy told me not to talk to strangers." "Is that so? And who is your daddy?" he inquired. "Mr. Pinocchio the toy maker." "Aha! I thought you looked familiar." Honest leaned closer and realized how much her face resembled her dad's. This meant Pinocchio had escaped Pleasure Island and the coachman. "So you're Pinocchio's child, eh? The boy must have grown up somehow. Then I assure you we're no strangers, my dear. We're old friends of your dear father, right, Giddy?" The cat smiled and tipped his hat. "My name's J. Worthington Foulfellow, but you may call me Honest John, and this silent buffoon here is my good friend Gideon." "My name's Annabelle. It's very nice to meet you both. But I don't have time to talk now. I have to get to school or I'll be late." Annabelle attempted to leave, but Honest stopped her again. "School, eh? Well, then I suppose you haven't heard about the easy road to success, he said, telling her the same thing he told Pinocchio. "Yeah, here we go again." No, what's that?" Annabelle asked curiously. "I'm talking about the theater, my dear. Bright lights, music, and lots of people cheering for you. You know, your father used to be a star performer, singing and dancing and having the time of his life back in the old days. And with your looks and talent, you could be a famous actor just like him." "Wow, do you really think so?" Annabelle's curiosity grew as the fox told her about the theater. "Of course! Who could be more famous than Pinocchio was? So what do you say, Miss Annabelle?" Annabelle was intrigued by this, but then she remembered where she was supposed to be. It does sound like fun, but no thanks. I want to go to school and make Daddy proud of me." Annabelle's not falling for it, because, she wasn't born yesterday. She's been alive for a couple days now, and Pinocchio and Nan have been teaching her, but now comes the part where Honest preys on her innocence. Honest realized his efforts to persuade Pinocchio's daughter wasn't working, so he decided to try a different approach. "Well then, perhaps you could help out your father's old friend, Mr. Stromboli. Now that he's getting older, he's been feeling sad and less motivated to do his puppet shows anymore because it's not as popular since your father stopped performing for him." "Aw, that sounds awful," Annabelle said, believing his story. "But if you performed for his show and helped him out, then I'm sure he would feel happy again, and your father would appreciate you helping his old friend." "Yeah, they're friends all right." Okay, Annabelle finally gave in. "I'll go then. I'll do anything to help Daddy's friend." Yeah, she's very naive. Splendid! Stromboli will be very pleased to have you perform and rekindle his spirit. Now if you'll just follow us, we'll take you to meet him. Having persuaded Annabelle, the two swindlers began leading her away from school and towards Stromboli's theater. Oh boy, here we go again. Meanwhile, Jiminy was hurrying along to catch up with Annabelle to make sure she got to school safely, but he still couldn't find her. I hope that kid made it to school without getting distracted, he said to himself. Just then, he stopped when he saw two figures approaching. As they got closer, he realized it was Honest John and Gideon, and he hid behind a corner as they passed by. It's those two crooks again. What are they? But when he saw they were walking with Annabelle, he started to panic. Oh no! I knew this would happen! I've got to get Annabelle away from those guys! He hopped after them and managed to get ahead. He didn't want to be seen because he knew if he revealed himself, then Gideon might try and smash him with his hammer again. Yeah, remember when he tried to smash him in the movie and he clunked Honest John on the head, got him trapped in the hat? That was hilarious. I've got to distract them somehow so I can get Annabelle away from them, but how? He looked around and noticed someone had laid a basket of dirty laundry on the window and got an idea. He hopped onto the ledge, which was held up by a pin, and as Annabelle and the cons approached, he pulled the pin and the platform collapsed. The dirty laundry basket fell on Honest and covered him in dirty clothes. Yeah, that was the best thing I could do to for a distraction. Having him be covered in dirty clothes. What's the meaning of this? He shouted, struggling to free himself from under the avalanche of clothes. Gideon, get me out of this! While Gideon attempted to free his comrade, Jiminy hopped down and landed on Annabelle's hat. Psst! Annabelle! He whispered. Huh? Who said that? She looked around but didn't see anyone. It's me! Jiminy said, hopping onto her nose. Oh, hi, Jiminy. What are you doing here? Let's talk somewhere private. He led her away from Gideon and Honest, and they hid behind a brick wall and made sure they weren't followed. What do you want to talk about, Jiminy? Annabelle asked. I want to know what you're doing with those two crooks. And why aren't you in school? He asked with an angry frown and folded his arms over his chest. Mr. Honest John asked me to go to the theater to help Daddy's friend Mr. Stromboli because he's sad and doesn't want to do his puppet shows anymore, she explained. Annabelle, don't you believe a word those goons tell you. They're just trying to mislead you like they did your father when he was a puppet. Stromboli is a greedy and evil man. And besides, you're supposed to be at school. But Jiminy, No buts, young lady. You go tell them you're not going to the theater and you're going to school. That's that. Annabelle did as she was told and went back to where Honest and his partner were looking for her after freeing themselves from the laundry. Jiminy watched her talking to them, hoping that she'd do the right thing and return to him. Bye, Jiminy. She waved and started walking away with them again. What? Jiminy shouted in surprise. Annabelle, you come back here this minute. But it was too late. Honest and Gideon were leading her away. Here we go again. That kid is just like her father. I better go tell Pinocchio. Fearing Annabelle was walking straight into trouble, he ran back to the house to get Pinocchio. End of Chapter 5. And that's where Chapter 5 ends. So, okay, so like I said, this is another two-parter, so I'm going to read Chapter 6 here. Here we go. Chapter 6. Stromboli's Plan. Honest John and Gideon led Annabelle out of the village, and were heading to the big open field where Stromboli's puppet theater was set up. And Annabelle was very excited to meet the old gypsy who she believed was her father's friend and was a poor, struggling old man. But this was all a lie told by Honest to get her to come to the show, hoping it would settle their debt with him. Honest led the way while Annabelle and Gideon followed behind. Are we almost there, Mr. Honest John? Annabelle asked. Just over that hill, my dear, Honest replied joyfully, humming a song from years ago. Suddenly Gideon tripped over a rock and fell over, nearly knocking Honest John over. Clumsy cat. Mr. Gideon, are you all right? Annabelle shouted and quickly helped him up. Gideon appeared to be all right and brushed himself off. You should be more careful. You could hurt yourself. This just shows how caring and nurturing Annabelle is. She truly has a good heart and cares for everybody, even though they might be deceiving her. Gideon was surprised by Annabelle's concern for his well-being. Being unable to speak, he didn't know how to thank her properly. Honest, however, wasn't amused, so he scolded his partner for being so clumsy. "He's fine, my dear. He's not as intelligent as I am. Now let's continue on our way." After walking a little further on, they came upon a large caravan that was parked behind a big purple tent, where the puppet show was to be held. Inside was a big wooden stage with a big red curtain. Is this Mr. Stromboli's puppet theater?" Annabelle inquired. "Yes, it is, my dear. There will be lots of people showing up to see the show tonight, with you as the main attraction," Honest explained. "Oh, I don't care about being a star. I just want to help my daddy's friend," Annabelle stated. "You have a very kind heart, Annabelle. Now you and Gideon wait here while I go have a word with the old man." Annabelle waited while Honest went backstage, where he found Stromboli, the puppet master, instructing several puppeteers for the show. He looked older than he used to, with his now gray hair and beard. He was wearing a dark green overcoat and with silver buttons and a lime green short-sleeved shirt and brown pants. Like I said, Stromboli's older in this story, but still, mean and threatening and grouchy as ever. "Can't you incompetent amateurs do this right?" Stromboli yelled furiously, swearing in his Italian language at the puppeteers. "The employees I hired 15 years ago were better than you swines." "We're sorry, Mr. Stromboli," said one of the puppeteers worryingly, "but it's harder than it looks. How do you expect us to master it by this evening?" "Ahem, pardon my interruption, Stromboli, my friend," said Honest, tapping his shoulder. "But might I have a word?" Stromboli turned around and growled at the fox. "What do you want now, foul fellow? Can't you see I'm busy? You and that cat should be in town advertising for my show." "Yes, but I have good news. Gideon and I found a new addition that will surely make your show a big success, as it was when Pinocchio performed with you." "Pinocchio?" That's my best impersonation of Stromboli. Hearing that name made Stromboli's temper rise, and he began to swear again. "That puppet lost me a fortune and made a fool of me. Because of him, my show hit rock bottom. If I ever see him again, I'll make him regret escaping me with my friend called Fire." "Well, then I think you'll be pleased to hear what we've brought you. We found another living puppet, and she's Pinocchio's daughter." "His daughter?" Stromboli followed Honest and peeked out from the curtain. He looked astonished, having not seen a living puppet in so long. "Incredible! She looks exactly like him. Pinocchio must have grown up somehow." "We told her that you were old friends with Pinocchio, and that you were sad because your show was failing, so we persuaded her to come here to help you." "Well done, foul fellow. With Pinocchio's daughter as my new star performer, I'll finally have my revenge on that wooden brat." Stromboli smiled viciously, but Honest suddenly realized something that could ruin everything. "But wait a minute. Suppose Pinocchio comes looking for his child." "Of course he will. If he has a living puppet daughter, then he must know how to bring puppets to life. So we'll use the little puppet show to lure Pinocchio here and capture him again. Once I have him back, I'll make him tell me how to bring puppets to life. I'll no longer have to hire puppeteers to do work for me. I'll be the richest man in the world." Yes, that's very good and all. Also, if you have Pinocchio and his child, then you no longer need us, right? Right, old boy? Very well. Stromboli knew Honest was trying to bribe him to release them from his services. "But first you help me capture Pinocchio. Then you're free to go." "It's a deal." The two villains shook hands in agreement. As they came out from behind the stage, they found Annabelle dancing with Gideon while he pretended to use his walking cane as an instrument. That's kind of funny there. "What's going on here?" Honest shouted. Gideon and Annabelle stopped dancing for the moment their eyes made contact. Gideon hid his cane behind him, hoping Honest didn't notice. "Gideon was just helping me practice my dancing," Annabelle replied cheerfully. "That's wonderful, my dear. Now then, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Stromboli." Annabelle was a bit surprised by the puppet master's size. "Hello, Mr. Stromboli. I'm Annabelle. It's very nice to meet you." She smiled and gave a curtsy. "It's nice to meet you too, Miss Annabelle." Stromboli smiled and shook her hand. "So you're Pinocchio's little girl, eh?" "Yes, sir. Are you really my daddy's friend?" "Of course I am. Your daddy used to perform for my show, but he told me he didn't want to be an actor and went home to his father. Sadly, my puppet show hasn't been the same since he left. Hardly anybody comes to see it anymore. I'm afraid I may have to retire and give up on this show entirely." Stromboli pretended to act sad and started sobbing. "Aw, please don't be sad, Mr. Stromboli." Annabelle fell for his act and pitied him. "Maybe if I perform for your show, then people will like it again, and you won't have to give it up." "Really? You'd do that for a poor old man like me?" he asked, kneeling down to her. "Sure I would. Daddy taught me that I should always help people who need help." "Your father has taught you very well, little one." Stromboli smiled and patted her head. "If you can make my show a success again, I will be entirely grateful to you and your father." "I'll do my best," Annabelle stated. "Well, Miss Annabelle, we wish you the best of luck," said Honest. "But I'm afraid Gideon and I have other matters to attend to, so we must be going." "Okay, Mr. Honest John. It was nice meeting you both." "If you see your father again, please give him our best regards, and that we hope to meet him again very soon. Come on, Gideon." He grabbed his partner's arm and dragged him away. Gideon waved to Annabelle, and for some reason he couldn't explain, felt a little tiny bit guilty for misleading her. Once they were gone, Stromboli led Annabelle backstage to prepare for the show. He smiled devilishly, for soon his plan would be set in motion. Yeah, this is, I really liked how I used this. I know I am retreading the same grounds as the film, but I'm putting a new spin on this here by having the villains use Annabelle as bait to capture Pinocchio again. So we'll see what becomes of this. Meanwhile, Jiminy was still making his way back to the house to warn Pinocchio about what had happened to Annabelle. Soon he finally reached the house and hopped onto the windowsill. He looked in and saw Pinocchio inside working on a broken clock. "Pinocchio! Pinocchio! Open up! It's me!" He banged on the glass and yelled frantically. Pinocchio looked up to see Jiminy shouting and opened the window to let him inside. "Jiminy, what's the matter?" "Annabelle's in trouble, Pinocchio. You gotta come quickly," he replied, hopping up and down. "What happened to her, Jiminy?" "I hate to tell you this, but she ran into those old two swindlers, Honest John and Gideon. They convinced her to go to Stromboli's just like they did to you." "What? Oh no, I was afraid this would happen." Pinocchio's worst fears had come true. His daughter had fallen into the clutches of the wicked puppet master. "We've got to rescue her. Come on, Jiminy." The cricket hopped into Pinocchio's shirt pocket as he ran out the front door, eager to save his daughter from the evil Stromboli. "You see what I mean, Figgy?" said Figaro to this little kitten as they watched Pinocchio from outside the window. "Puppets are nothing but trouble. This is the same thing that happened with Pinocchio and Geppetto when I was a kitten. That Annabelle is just as much trouble as Pinocchio was." "I don't care what you say about her, Daddy. I love Annabelle," she shouted and hissed at him angrily. She's sweet and kind, and you're always mean to her. You're just a mean, grumpy old cat. I'm going to help them. Goodbye." And with that, she ran out the door, following after Pinocchio and Jiminy. As Figaro watched her run off, he thought about what she said and felt ashamed of himself for saying those terrible things about Annabelle. He then climbed onto the sofa and waited for them to return. End of chapter 6. Yeah, Figaro is a bit of a grouch. I mean, he means well. He's just old age has caught up with him, and he already sees where this is going. The same things happen again. He thinks Pinocchio is gonna wander off looking for her like Geppetto did. But we'll see what happens. Figaro is really nice. He's just still dealing with the loss of Geppetto and Cleo. Figgy has a good heart, and she loves Annabelle very much and is determined to help her, so we'll see how that comes of it. Anyway, that was chapter 5 and 6. Like I said, this was all supposed to be a two-parter, so I mixed them together. So anyway, I hope you guys liked that story, and we'll see if Pinocchio and Jiminy are able to rescue Annabelle from the villains. You know they probably will. So anyway, if you guys like this chapter, please leave a like and comment down below telling me you'd like to hear the rest of the story. And until next time, I'm Lazbro. I'll catch you guys later.